Real estate industry is so dynamic, changes all the time. I always say the only thing that is consistent in our industry is that it's constantly changing. Being able to build a successful business in this industry is no easy feat, especially one that's spanned over 2 decades. That's why I'm really excited for today's guest. On today's episode of Sit Down with Sam, we're going to talk with Stefanie Lavelle. She's going to talk about how she got in the business, how she's built her business. We're going to cover coaching, whether it's being a student or actually being a coach. And we're going to cover a wide range of things that I think are incredibly valuable and useful for anyone at any stage in their career, whether you've been at this for years or you're just getting started out. This episode today is for you. So let's jump right in. I think everyone has their origin story, how they got into the business, who they are, why they are where they are. And yours is a little bit different. I know that some people come from families that were involved with real estate.
Yeah.
I came from no financial background whatsoever. A professional musician who broke his hand and had to figure out a way to feed himself. And that's how I actually got in the industry. Dumb luck had it. One of my business partners and best friends had started a mortgage company, and that's what led me to where I am today. Now,
I love that.
It's not a bad way. Your situation's a little different. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was your father who got you into real estate. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my dad, I was an interior design major, so I went to work for a big commercial corporate interiors firm after I graduated.
Okay.
And after September 11th, no one was doing corporate interiors or spending money in corporate interiors, which makes sense. And so I was sort of last in at the company and first out when that happened. And my dad suggested just getting my license. He said, it's not going to hurt to just have it. And I imagined having to be a realtor in the grocery store, knocking on somebody's shoulder, tapping on somebody's shoulder, that I was a realtor and needed business, and that made me cringe. And so he said, I think the city real estate is different, and just get your license. So I didn't have anything else going on. And so I figured, well, it can't hurt to get it. So I got my license. At the time, he was negotiating for Catholic Health Partners for selling 2520 Lakeview to Nick Galitas from American Invesco. And so at the tail end of the 3-year negotiation, he said to him, would you just talk to my daughter? Give her some direction on how to get into real estate in Chicago. And he said, I'm going to call her this week. And sure enough, he had his daughter, who was heading up a new project, call me. And she said, we're starting Monday. I think that was a Friday.
Really?
And she said, we're starting Monday. Come on board with the sales team. So I just got really lucky in sort of getting a first shot. So my first building was 33 West Delaware at Delaware and Dearborn. And I've never looked back.
And he didn't even ask him to give you a job. He just said, can you call her and talk to her about real estate, which Correct.
My dad would never have asked him to give me a job.
That's interesting. He's like, oh yeah, I'll call. Matter of fact, we're just going to hire her.
Yes. But he was sort of notorious for finding people in the line at Starbucks or, that was sort of his thing, which I came to find out years later. But I just kind of got lucky. Rosalie and I hit it off, and that was 22.5 years ago.
Was that for American Invesco then?
Yeah.
So you were an inside sales agent for American Invesco?
I was.
Sold that building?
Sold at that building. I was the last agent standing in that building 9 months later.
Doesn't surprise me.
Then went on to 440 Wabash. Then they flew me to Florida, which I was supposed to be there for 45 days, and I was there for 9 months.
Oh, wow.
So I was there over winter, which wasn't bad. And then when it turned to spring and got hot, I was like, I want to go back to Chicago. Came back, managed 10 East Ontario, then managed 182 Lake. Then I went to manage 200 North Dearborn.
Oh, wow.
So it was a whole whirlwind.
So that wasn't a short stint.
It was not.
That's interesting to go from can you talk to my daughter about real estate to what then shaped your career. I mean, this is where you got started.
Yeah.
And then you made a move away from American Invesco, obviously. Pivoted.
I did. Yeah, when the market started tanking, I saw it on the development side because we went from a lot of activity coming through the buildings and through our open houses and everything to very little. It was trickling down. And I had gone to Nick and said, something's happening in the market. The market is not doing well. He said I wasn't working hard enough, which sounds about right.
Okay.
And So I said I had met my husband in Ireland, ironically, which is a story for another time. While I was working, we were selling real estate to Irish investors because otherwise, how would I have met him? Because I was working 24/7.
But not working hard enough.
Well, never working hard enough, except 7 days a week, getting calls at 5 a.m. to go to breakfast with him and had to be ready in a half an hour. So anyway, I was getting married. The market was tanking. I kind of felt like I need to maybe try something different. This
like
isn't working.
2006-ish, 2007?
Yes. Yeah. Right in between.
Right in between the two, right? Yeah. I'd going into 2006, that was my jam. I worked on new construction developments.
Yeah.
You know.
So you knew.
I did. I saw, and it was interesting because the last large project that I was on was at 21st and State Street, the Opera Lofts.
Yeah.
And that building was, I think they had 96 units or 98 units or something. We got through about 30 of them. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that I saw was, I saw the sales staff get blamed, right? So they had, at the time, the developer who had brought on another partner. So his partner had come involved, and he was a bigger developer and started calling the shots. Okay. Meanwhile, this developer, his name's Lee Bound, amazing guy, lovely.
Okay.
Till this day, still friends. We had done a lot of developments, like south of 21st in Bronzeville. Like Lee built Bronzeville. He did so many projects there. So at this time, what had happened is him and the other business partner, he basically got rid of his sales force, who had been with him for years, and they said, we need to have our own, like American Invesco.
In-house.
We need opera, lofts agents. And when that had happened, I could see the shift, and I saw things start to slow down. At that point in time, I was representing over 1,200 units in the city of Chicago as my preferred lender.
Yeah.
And then, we know what happened, right? From there, we watched they became rentals, receivership. It was interesting, and so that's what made that pivot for you. You saw this happen, and how did you? I mean, you kind of got lucky the first time in a way, which I think happens to all of us when we head down this path. How did you know how to make that next move and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it for me was personal. It felt like I was exhausted, and I kind of felt like I was in a little bit of an uphill battle at that point because we weren't making any adjustments. We weren't, so I had gone to Nick and said, we need to kind of change some things up. And as I said, it wasn't well received. Right. And he was sort of a pioneer in plowing through and making things happen. Right. Which the amount that I learned from him in doing that was incredible. But at the end of the day, when that happened, no one had ever seen anything like what happened in 2007. No. So I think it was, uncharted waters. And because I started feeling like, okay, I actually need to pour some energy into my personal life as well if I want to get married and have a family, which was important to me. And so I felt like the timing just kind of made sense. I did get a little bit lucky, though, even when I left, because one of my very close friends from Invesco, she had been on the brokerage side of things, because they did have a brokerage office as well, had left and gone to Coldwell Banker. And at the time I was talking to kind of a bunch of the different companies, and she finally said to me, if you're leaving Invesco, why aren't you just coming here and working with me?
Fair enough.
And her dad had been the vice president of the entire Western region for Coldwell Banker for about 25 years. So she was born and bred in a real estate family. So she really took me under her wing and taught me the resale side of the business because I had never written a resale contract. I mean, I had only worked on developer contracts.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, that's not true. I had a short stint where I sold 4 units in between projects. And I was a total fish out of water because I didn't know really what I was doing. Well, amazingly enough, I still talk to those 4 clients.
Those contracts were a pain in the ass anyway, so you started off on the right foot.
I did.
Like you took the hard up front, and then so making that pivot probably wasn't too difficult.
For sure. No, but trying to rebuild an entire business on the resale side of the business when the market was, had tanked was really challenging. But she as I said, she kind of took me under her wing and taught me the business, so I still got very lucky.
Okay.
And now she heads up the Western region for AT.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun.
So yeah, how did you do that? Now, I think that, it's interesting because we've talked about the, again, that the great crash that we've seen, which was created by our industry, was something we've never seen. And now we've, well, the one thing that I've learned over the past 5 years is that anything can happen. And obviously we've seen some crazy things happen now. And they're not similar markets in the fact that they're completely different. I don't predict we're coming up on this crash or whatnot, but at the same time,
we're not doing no doc loans.
Right. We're not doing, well, interesting enough, there are programs coming back that are walking that tightrope as the lending industry loves to do. But at the same time, I think it would be easily, you could argue that this is a difficult, if not interesting, different time, right?
It is, for sure.
Thinking about that, going back, you made this move, tremendous move, right? Going through and deciding you're going to go into the resale business. Now you had to build your business during a very difficult time.
Yes.
So think about that for people who are watching this, right? If they're agents who are watching this, and now maybe they just started and they got their license in 23, right? They just got their license right after everything was so easy, the COVID boom, right? Another opposite. Instead, we had the crash. Now we had this boom, and they're
artificially created, right? Both of them sort of artificially created.
Well, they're called tailwind experiences. Tailwind experiences are basically this one huge, impactful event that creates the success. Apple, a lot of people think of Apple as one of the most successful companies, and they're amazing and they're innovative, and they are all of those things. I like Apple, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it wasn't for the iPhone, generating from the iPod to the iPhone, they never would have been the cultural phenomena. Exactly. It's this tailwind event. And I see, these are tailwind events in our industry. Fortunately, I guess we get a few of them. Yeah. But if someone's watching this and they're thinking like, okay, I got my license, this is really difficult, I have to build my business. Yeah. How did you do this back, during that kind of time of turmoil?
Yeah, I have to kind of think back a little bit. I mean, there's stuff that I know today that I didn't know then that actually I think could have helped me and made me a lot more successful during that time. Okay. I feel like I kind of just suffered through it a little bit. I mean, I still put some deals together, but when I look at what I made in those years, in fact, I was sifting through old documents and I found like old lists from the sales center and stuff that I still had that need to be shredded and disposed of. But what I was looking for in some of that was like an old W-2 or something, or an old 1099 or something, so that I could even look. But I'll never forget my husband at one point sitting down and saying, honey, you could be doing a lot more things and making a lot more money than you are in the industry. And I just kept saying to him, it's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. But I think what I will say is I did the work that nobody wanted to do. So there were a lot of short sales happening. There were a lot of agents saying, oh, those are a huge pain. There's so much work. It takes forever to get approvals. Sometimes you don't, and they're a waste of time. And so I felt like I didn't really have a choice. I had to take whatever was maybe available to take to make a living. So I did all the short sales. And some of those clients have come back to me after all these years and have now bought beautiful homes. And that's amazing. I mean, you sort of build a relationship for life if you're kind of helping somebody bail out of something that they're in a really tough situation with. Right. I did tons of rentals. Again, something no agents want to do even today. So even to today, I still do rentals because I feel like I don't know. I just feel like it took me through a really tough time period. Okay. I mean, that year, a third of my income was from the rentals that I did. And so now I have a lot of investor clients and we rent a lot of their places for them. So we do about 26 rentals a year. That's crazy. Just on the listing side.
And there's a stigma to it. And I talk to agents that are, they're starting out. I'll meet with an agent and talk to them and they'll be like, oh, well, I'm just doing rentals now, but I'm going to be selling real estate. And I try to tell them, I said, listen, I tell my team this, I say, we're in the customer service business. We just happen to do mortgages and real estate is the same thing, but really we are in business relationships, which are going to become even more important moving into
Yes.
what technology brings our way. It's going to be that connection, and those relationships are
For
so
sure.
important. But I love that because with rentals, I'm like, well, you're starting off at a very interesting point in someone's life, and you're helping them, and that can, I mean, later down the road, that's going
For
to lead
sure.
to more business. Why would?
Yes.
And you're getting paid for it. People buy leads.
I know.
Like, you're actually getting paid for a lead.
Right.
Why would you not want that?
You could market yourself to other people in the office who won't take them on, which
Right.
there's a lot of people that won't take them on, right? So
I think that though, but I see the underlying theme there. You were willing to do what other people did not want to do.
correct.
The
And I still am.
that well, I was going to ask you about that. So I've always said that the market doesn't determine how much business you do. It just determines where you get that business from. And again,
Yeah.
sometimes that's doing the things that people don't want to do. Can you think of some examples now? Like what, going at the time of recording this, we're in the middle of 2025. It's
Yeah.
been another interesting year in real estate.
Yeah.
And I find it's interesting, either people are having their best year or their worst year.
Yeah.
And we've been saying that last year. We said that. The year before,
had
that's
quite a
what it
few
ended up
years like
happening.
that.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
can you think of some of the things that maybe people don't want to do right now that are opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think at the end of the day, most people want the success, but they don't really want to do what it takes to actually get it.
Right.
When I interview newer agents who want to come onto the team, and I keep a very small team purposefully. I don't want 20 agents on my team that I have to manage. Most of my team is sort of support for me, and then I have a couple agents that I really believe in and I know have the skill sets and do what they need to do. And, one of them actually was a client that moved here who was a big agent in Vegas.
Okay.
And so it's fun seeing her kind of branch out now. But she was an amazing agent before she came.
Right.
I'm more just teaching her the Chicago market and, what to do here, but she's done great. But I think, when I talk to a lot of the agents, unfortunately they get into this business for the wrong reasons, I think. And maybe I did too when I started. So it's not necessarily a criticism to them. I think it's sort of a preconceived notion that you're getting into this business because you can have a flexible schedule and you can, little do they know, it ends up being a 24/7 schedule.
Right.
But as I'm texting with a very tough client last night in the middle of my son's 15th birthday, that we're celebrating, which never makes me feel good. So I woke up this morning feeling like
But
I
happy
promised
birthday.
myself I was never going to do this again.
Happy birthday to your
And
son.
here I am. Yeah, thank you. But I think, so they think flexibility, they think, create my own schedule, or I
Easy
can do
money.
this part-time, super easy money.
Yeah.
And then when, I'm making beds and wiping down counters and cleaning toilets before showings because I know it's not going to show well, I remember, like, this is your flexibility, right? So I think, so there's that piece that I think the agents don't realize. And this is a major grunt work kind of job. I think you can build a beautiful career and living off doing it. You really have to love it though, and you have to be willing to kind of get in the trenches and do all of those things, in my opinion. And there are other agents I think that are a little more diva that maybe don't do those things and also have tremendous success. That's not my personality, but so I think that's part of it, that agents don't really realize what it really takes.
Okay.
And then the other part I think is, you have to make your calls. You have to connect with people. As you said earlier, this is a people business, right? So if you're not actually connecting with people, I mean, you cannot sit in your house all day and just do social media and expect to build a gigantic business. I think that's a vehicle for connecting with people, and there's a lot of reason and benefit behind the social stuff.
Sure.
But I don't think it can only be that. I think at the end of the day, you need the human connection. And I think with like even the, back in the office for work right now, we're seeing that people want and need that human connection. So, so I think, you have to put yourself out there. You have to go to networking events. You have to go to dinners that maybe you don't want to. I mean, I joke with my team all the time, like, I'm kind of a homebody type person. If I didn't know that I needed to do some of these things to continue my business going, I probably would be at home most nights on my couch, not doing it, right? I mean, but I think we have to, it's part of the job.
It's hard because we are, our culture is, there's this hustle culture, there's this entrepreneur, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, everyone's going to build, which is amazing. I think that's great.
It is.
The flip side of that, though, is that there are people who, again, they want the victory lap. As you said, they don't want to do the work, and they don't understand what goes into it. And it's hard because you have these people who are very successful. Yeah. I find it's interesting because there's this balance point where it's like you've got someone who's 23 and they're a life coach. And you're like, okay, well, you still have a year left for your frontal cortex. Like, I'm like, and when I think back, I'm old. So when I think back to 23 to 24 to 28 to 30 and the different people that we are, which is amazing, it's just interesting. I'm like, well, you're trying to be a life coach. Now, on the flip side of that, you have people who are in a position who are, they've been at it for 25 years, 22 years. And we're in a position, myself included in this, where now we're giving advice and we're coaching people, and not just us, but like on a grander scheme. You see people. Yeah. I always look at it and I say, listen, what got them here isn't necessarily going to get you there, and what people are doing now is definitely not going to get you there, because you read, you listen to podcasts. I love to read, love all this stuff, and taking in and learning. And you find the guy who's just like, okay, so I get up in the morning, I cold plunge, I get my matcha latte, and then I just sit
all before 5 a.m.
Yeah, before 5 a.m. I sit in a room and it's dark for a full hour and I do nothing but stare in the dark. And then after that, I write my affirmations, and then for 4 hours I do yoga and work out, because you've got to take care of your body. And they start adding up these schedules, and you realize that, okay, wait a minute, that's 28 hours. There's not 28 hours in a day.
Right.
I'm like, and B, nowhere in there was cleaning the toilets before a showing. Like nowhere in there was the hard work.
Right.
So there's this weird middle ground where we're trying to teach people to do things and take a good advice from someone, because it doesn't necessarily apply to where you are here.
Yeah.
You're almost better off taking it from the person up front who's got that, who's living it and trying to go through it. But that is a great way to kind of transition over, because you're no stranger to the coaching world, right? You were a student at the core, a well-known coaching platform, and for a long time, one of the very few coaching platforms that were even around for our industry.
And that was life-changing for me.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, there are things about the core that are very challenging for me, more like on a personal level. I just feel like it's a tough place. But some of the concepts that I learned there, it was life-changing for me in a good way. I mean, I feel like it taught me structure. It taught me setting better boundaries. It taught me how to do all the activities that I need to do every day.
The calls you had to make.
The calls I have to make.
The basics, almost.
It's the basics.
Right.
But, this business, we take that real estate exam, which almost has nothing to do with the everyday inner workings of what we do every day, right? Really on any level whatsoever. It's basically learning some of the laws and ethics and other stuff that you do need the basic principles of, but school's sort of the same way, right? It kind of builds a basic level of educational foundation for you, but you learn more on the job in a week than you could ever learn in months and months of being in school and being taught it, right? It's just, you learn so much on the job. So, and there's not, even with some of the amazing training programs and other stuff that some of our companies have, there's something to be said for just the basic level activities, And so I kind of feel like from the coaching perspective, it taught me really how to run the business like a business.
Okay. That's important. A lot of people miss that.
And I missed it for a lot of years, for sure. Right? And, Nick used to talk about, if you had this database of people that had come through that you had met even in the sales center, that you could build a business for the rest of your life just with the people that had come through the sales center. And I didn't really understand that at the time.
It probably seemed absurd. You're like, what do you mean?
We only sold completely absurd.
That's 500 people, and I only sold 2 to those 500, so that's 498 wasted contacts. But
correct.
But it actually is.
But it's
gold
actually
in
an
there.
entire database.
There's gold in there, right?
Yeah, and had I known back then what I know now, I would have started farming all of those people, for a lot of years, and would have had an entire huge database. I didn't know. And so by the time I would have reached back out, it would have been 7 years later. And,
You could be
or
closing
8
someone
years
now that
or
you met
10
in
years later.
2010.
They'd
Right?
have no idea who I was,
Right.
right? So I think there are unique ways that you can, develop into that. But back to the coaching, it really taught me how to run the business like a business, which was a huge gift.
How long were you a student at the Core?
How long was
Roughly.
I there? 4 years?
Okay, that's a
About 4
really good
years?
run.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like it was a long time.
Why did you move away from it?
Well, a handful of reasons. I feel like I knew the principles. I knew
Okay.
what I needed to do. A big piece of coaching, though, is the accountability piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like maybe I can put other things in place that can fulfill that accountability piece for me.
Got it.
And I do have that. I'm not nearly as strict with myself as they were with me when I was there.
Okay.
And I think I also needed a break. It's so intensive.
Yep.
And the expectations are set so high, which clearly helps the business for sure. But I felt like I was missing a lot of stuff on the personal side. And part of the reason I personally went into coaching, we all have our whys and how we want our lives to look. And so
Right.
one of the things I've always challenged my own students with, but then also some of the coaches I've had, is not everyone's why looks the same. So like the owner of the Core just thinks everyone wants to grow and grow and grow and blow up their business.
Okay.
And that's not actually a goal for everyone, right? Like, to me, where I'm at in my life right at this moment, I have young kids at home. I don't want to look back and feel like I got no time with them, or I didn't get these are the memories that I feel like I'll remember more than one particular client or 1 week that I didn't make enough calls, or right? So for me, I wanted to figure out, how do I keep a really great amount of business, but somehow find harmony between that and my personal life.
Okay.
And I'm avoiding the word balance, because balance means something's equal.
Right.
And I'm always going to be spending more time at work than I'm going to be spending at home. It's just more hours of my day, and my kids are in school longer than they're going to see me during the day, right?
Okay.
But I think I wanted to just be able to figure out, how do I create harmony in my day so that when I'm home, I'm really home and I'm enjoying my time and spending my time with them and feeling like everything else is under control. And so I do feel like it did allow me to do that, because it helped me put specific systems into place
Right.
to allow me to be able to do that. So as I said, such a gift to be able to be given. But I also was a good student.
Yeah, your personality-wise, you're pretty driven, right? Like you said,
Yeah,
you're
and
going
I'm
to
just,
going to
tell me what
Florida
to do,
for
I'll do
45
it.
days. You're there for 9 months. These.
Yeah.
You're always. It seems like when you dig in on something, you commit and you follow through.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why you've had the success that you've had and built such an amazing career. It's interesting though, as you mentioned that, because there's the power of enough is something that people overlook, right?
Agreed.
Always move the goal line. And I think that the reason why programs, coaching programs, and just in general companies, and when we look at people in our industry and we say, okay, well, they want to have this growth all the time,
Yeah.
is that, well, that's good for a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also, sometimes this is the way we are because we move that goal line. I remember the first time I had received a large commission check, and this was back, I've been doing this since 2001, so it was a different time, and it was going to be for over $10,000 from this one transaction.
Yeah.
And I always remember it. I'm not going to say the guy's name. I do remember the borrower. I remember everyone. And
Yeah.
it was a great, I wasn't
Yeah.
taking advantage of him.
Yeah. No,
it was
no,
just,
no.
it was a large loan amount. And at the time
Yeah.
you can make a lot more money on loans.
Yeah.
That's how it was. And I remember this is great. I was at the Subterranean, which is a 5 a.m. bar. And it was probably about 3:30 in the morning. And I was just thinking to myself and talking to my friend, he was my business partner at the time, about this deal. And I was like, man, if that closed, I would be so happy. Like, my life will be changed forever. I can't imagine that amount of money. Mm-hmm. And then that became
Normal.
now if I can make this amount of money, and wow, the first year I made 6 figures, I thought that I had reached the top of the mountain.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Right? That was the foothills,
Yeah.
as far as anyone's concerned. Because it's really, when it comes to that, if you don't know what enough is, then there is no mountain. You just have the plane, because you're going to continue to walk across that. You know, it's like that horizon you see in the difference.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep moving.
For sure.
Keep moving. So the power of enough is amazing.
And you do want, I think people confuse growth with that you can't still have growth if you've said, I have enough.
Right.
And that's actually not true. Because you can continue to grow in so many ways,
right,
including the business, but maybe it's just not the main driver of why you do everything every day, right? The growth is going to happen because the growth in the business is going to happen because you have growth in a lot of other areas in your life, right? So if I put better systems into place to give me better harmony in my life work, divide, then there's a good chance my business might actually do better because I'm putting all those systems and I'm putting better systems in place to be able to manage everything.
And you're a better you.
Yeah.
You're able to,
And I feel better about what I'm doing every day, right? Versus feeling stressed or that I'm running around like a crazy person.
So let's transition then. So you were a student.
Yep.
And then you also are a coach.
Yes.
Right. And you were involved with Go Coaching for a period of time and went through this. Why did you make that change? Why did you move from the student to the master?
Well, I think because it was so life-changing for me, I felt like I want to be able to have this same impact on other people and teach them that it can be better, right? I think, we go from, I see a lot of young agents, they're so excited about the business, right? And they're and it's so cute because they come in and they have no idea they're going to be scrubbing toilets the following week.
It's hard to relate to that, isn't it? When you see that excitement, you're like, really?
Yes. But that's so exciting. And I'm so excited for their journey ahead, right? But I think then they sort of hit this, like, I don't really know what to do. I don't know how to build the business. I don't know how do I get my next client? And so I think, they either decide they're going to go have to get another job or leave the industry, or they just stay sort of frustrated for an amount of time. And so I felt like if I can help them figure out how to grow and how to structure and, that you can quote unquote have it all, I guess, right? If you, or you can have it. And I think having it all is different than having it how you kind of need it to be or how you want it to be. And I really have like a special passion too for working moms and dads who want to actually have that home life, right? And want to experience that and have that be part of their own personal experience. So I really kind of love that. And so I had some wonderful students. I think the challenging piece with coaching, and I've said this to my own agents on my own team, is that I cannot want it more for you than you want it for yourself.
Right. You can't teach that.
I can't. And so it's hard when you're somebody who's so driven and you know that when somebody else tells you how to do something and that you should shift the way you're doing it because it could be better and everything, you try it because you want that so much for it to be better. But I can't want that want for someone else. And tough. So I found myself a little frustrated because I felt like I'm telling you exactly what you need to do and you're not listening. It sort of felt like my kids at home, right? Mom is never right about anything. And so I started feeling a little bit like that, even though I had good experience with doing a certain way that, I think, and which again sort of goes back to this, they want the success, but they don't necessarily want to do the work that it's going to take to get there. Right. We'd have certain, just like when I was in the Corps, we'd have certain minimum standards every week of what you're supposed to get done. Okay. And I know, because I've had my own experience in doing this, that if you do these things, you will have more business coming in the door. You will have more success in this. Right. You will have better systems and it'll be a smoother transaction and everything else. But no matter how many times you sort of coach on some of those things, if people aren't implementing them, they're not going to have those experiences.
Right.
And so,
Gym membership doesn't get you in shape.
That's right. Even though, what was the book that, the Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits.
The first day you're supposed to go and just stand on the tread. And I was like, please don't go and just stand on the tread. I mean, I understand that is, the first step in getting to the gym. But, I mean, maybe walk a little bit on the tread.
Maybe that was taking it a little too far.
Yes.
Right?
So, I mean, I feel like that was... I do love coaching. The idea of coaching, but I think I was just a little bit frustrated by some of the lack of doing.
Yeah, that would be tough. If you have a group of students, or if you're working with someone and you're trying to motivate, which is hard to do. I mean, I think you can motivate someone.
It is.
Right? But you can't create someone's heart. I think everyone has heart. It's just what inspires them.
Correct.
And if someone doesn't want to do what you're doing, chances are, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't inspiring them in the right way, but I don't think so. I think it's more so that it's the subject matter is not inspirational to them. There's something else they're passionate about that they want to do.
Yeah.
Now, interesting enough, I've been reading a lot of articles recently that has said that there are a lot of younger generations getting into real estate.
Yeah.
Like they're getting away from the office jobs.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see more of that because, as predicted, a lot of companies are now calling everyone back home, saying 5 days in the office, and if you don't like that, that's fine.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting.
I think socially for them, that's so good though. Like my niece is back in the office, and she moved here pretty much during COVID. And or right after. And she struggled meeting people.
Right.
Then she found an app, Bumble Friends.
Okay.
Where it's like dating, only it's how you
friends.
meet friends.
Okay.
Which I thought was kind of brilliant. And so she met some of her friends here from that, which was great. But she's also clearly kind of a go-getter to even be willing to put herself out there and do that and everything because it was something she really wanted. I feel like that would be an easy one. I feel like for me to more say like...
I was just going to say you should be coaching her.
I know. Well, I don't need to. I feel like, and half my advice is her hand is not taken either. Although no, she's pretty good about listening. But I feel like the getting back to the office for them, that's something that we actually got to experience.
Right.
That was awesome. I mean, that was one of the best times in my life, despite the fact that I was making $28,000 a year. It was a great time, to sort of be a younger person and getting into the work world and everything and meeting some coworkers and stuff that are sort of going through similar things.
And you got to connect and talk.
Yes.
Like you got to, if you're having a bad day, you got to vent.
Yes.
When you're having a win, you got to share it. And you got to also see other people in the same situation. You weren't alone.
And I think that's one of the challenges of the real estate business is that everyone can get these licenses, and then you're sort of in this isolated silo.
Right.
And so that was the other thing that I thought was awesome about coaching. And I would say the same thing about joining a team. I was talking to another agent in my office the other day who's thinking about a move maybe to another state.
Okay.
And she said, if you move to another state, would you go work for a big agent in the other state? And I said, 100%.
Right.
I would absolutely. I would not want to go. I don't think I would go start over. I mean, maybe at some point I would put my name on the door and have my own group or whatever, but I would absolutely, no question, go work for another agent in another state. I have a couple. I'm like, if I ever got to Montana, I would go work for Charlotte. If I got to Santa Barbara, I would go work for Kat. Like, right, I have friends in some of these other states.
We know where you want to move.
I know.
See the mountains of Montana calling.
or Santa Barbara. I mean, like the two most glorious places. But I feel like absolutely I would go, work for one of them and say, just put me to work.
Right.
I'll be a workhorse for you.
You're going to learn. You're going to figure everything out from them.
Yes, because they're amazing. And I know they're amazing. So I said to her, 100%, go join a big team. And also, do you need to, you've done it for yourself here. You've made it. I mean, go enjoy, enjoy some freedom and do that. But I think for younger people, in addition to coaching, I think that's almost just as important is finding a great mentor and or a great, team that you can join where you have some of that camaraderie. It doesn't feel so isolating and you get to learn hands-on.
Right. So now with that being said, joining a team, I think a lot of people struggle with this, right? Should I join a team? Should I do this on my own? Should I lead a team? That's another, another transition that agents will make in their life. And you've handled all aspects of this.
Yeah, for sure.
What type of advice would you give for someone on, I mean, obviously we've talked about you should join a team, you're going to a new area, they're going to teach you so much.
Yeah.
But what is, maybe share a little bit about what it's like to build a team, run a team, and manage that team, because I feel like that that's another thing where it's very, you can read about it and you can, try to figure it out, but until you're doing it, it's very difficult to do and to manage and to lead. So,
different skill sets.
Right, exactly. So can you talk about that skill set? I mean, you've mentioned your team, you've kept your lean team.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your experiences as far as building a team out and where you are now with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons I wanted to have a team is what I just talked about with feeling so isolated. Mm-hmm. So originally, when Trisha and I had teamed up, that felt so much better to me because it didn't feel like I was so isolated and kind of doing it on my own. And so through the fun celebratory times, but also through the tougher times, it's great to have kind of that other person balancing you in, being able to look at things a little bit differently for you, a great sounding board, but also to kind of pick you up. It's hard to stay motivated every single day solo.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the team, it's hard to stay motivated, right? At least I feel like even on days that I don't want to go to work, though, I know I have to go for them, right? So it's sort of like having to provide for everyone, right? I think for me, I wanted to make sure, I think a lot of agents view teams as, and bringing team members on as, what value can I give them? So there ends up being a lot of battle over commission, right? And I feel like, yes, of course, there's the financial component, especially if you are a commission-based human, doing a commission-based job, you're clearly motivated by money most of the time, right? I mean, I know that's probably a little controversial to say, but I personally think,
I think if you're spot on.
I think if you're working in a commission type job, you're somebody that's willing to take big risks for the big rewards, and you're motivated more by the financial outcome of that.
For sure.
And there's different personalities. Like I have, my operations director is unbelievable. And for her, the stability of the consistent paycheck and knowing exactly what her job looks like every day is much better for her, right? And so, but I also couldn't do my job without her, right? So I think in terms of a leadership role and having a team, figuring out which seats on the bus different people should be in that are going to make them the most comfortable. And then in terms of recruiting, I think we're missing the mark a little bit with bringing on some of the agents, because while they, I think, are a little more similar mindset to us of being commission-based, that's a newer concept to them because they're a newer agent typically coming into the business. And or if they're also seeking out being on a team, maybe the financial piece, you can make up for the financial piece if you're teaching them how to do it, right? It's the teaching them to fish versus fishing for them. And I think sometimes agents feel like, well, I can't bring other people onto my team because I don't have enough leads to feed them. They're maybe not doing mentoring for them. I do training sessions every other week for my team, no matter what, on all different topics. Some are, industry-wide, what's going on. Some are very nitty-gritty of, how do we make our offer stand out in a multiple offer situation better than maybe somebody else? Really in-depth conversations around very specific topics to continue improving the craft, right? Sometimes it's just a roundtable discussion on, what do we think of this? How do we think this is going to impact things? What are things we can do to get ahead of it, right? So I think there are other ways you can add value to people on your team that's not just what is your split. And I think that the split thing becomes such a big thing, but I think a lot of people are missing kind of the mark on some of that too. And again, we were talking about legacy earlier, but that's a way to kind of fulfill some of that legacy is being able to transfer some of this knowledge so they don't have to make all the mistakes that I made.
Right.
I mean, why should they have to? I'm going to teach them so they don't have to.
Hopefully they listen.
They do. I mean, I feel like, again, that's not something that happens overnight, right? You have to build that relationship so that they know they can trust you. And also, I would say, for all the agents that have ever worked on my team, even the ones that have left and stuff, I think if I went to any of them and asked, do you believe that I really was sort of in your corner and fighting for you and trying to do everything I could to make you successful? I would think that most of them would say yes, for sure.
That's amazing. That's a really strong attribute, and that's something that you should be proud of being able to say, because I think a lot of people build teams and it's based on
just getting a piece of the pie.
Yeah, I just want to scale to make more money because I don't want to do this. I'm just going to get a bunch of people to do it for me.
Yes.
I'm going to make money. And that comes through too, because I mean, you mentioned training and working with your team and helping them. So a lot of teams, people don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, what would be your advice for someone if they join a team and they're not getting anything? Like, do you think if someone joins a team and that team is not offering the training and support, do you think they should look for a different team?
I mean, I guess it depends on what they're looking for. You know, if you're somebody that is very experienced in the business, you don't feel like you need any of the training and you just want the leads, then maybe you look for a team that's just going to be handing you leads, right? I mean, I think not one size fits all, right? I mean, but I would say I'm always looking for ways to make myself better, despite being in this industry for so long. I never feel like I've perfected this craft. I mean, every day I feel like I learn a little something about something I can tweak, something I can make a little better, but I want it to be that way. So I think it sort of depends on the personalities. But I think I personally, if I were seeking out a team, would want a team that would want me to continue to be able to grow and learn. And there's so much. I mean, even on some of the deals, we have stuff come up that I've never had come up before, which is hard to believe after how many transactions we've done.
Never be surprised.
I know. Yeah. Which it keeps us on our toes. It does keep things interesting.
What what type of resources do you use for learning? Like you said, you like to continue to grow and to learn.
Yeah.
You know, you're not doing the coaching program now. You don't have a coach currently at this time.
I don't.
Doesn't mean you won't again.
Correct.
But right now you
That's
don't have one.
I will at some point. I think I feel like I needed a breather.
Yeah.
It's just intense.
How do you what do you use for learning? Just the day to day, or?
Yeah. So I would say, reading different articles and stuff about what's going on and staying on top of kind of what's happening in our industry, what's happening specifically here in Chicago.
Sure.
The other is, I mean, App Properties has some amazing training. I mean, I feel like it's something that they do really, really well.
Okay.
Amy Core heads that up with a whole team of people. And I do really believe they have amazing resources. I mean, I think you could spend an entire year probably taking all of their training, and they record everything. I mean, so you can watch it even if it's not in real time and you're not in a real class.
And this isn't just the ninja training, right?
It's not. No.
Completely
they do a ton of stuff.
Different training classes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I've learned a lot even from some of those classes, on stuff that maybe I hadn't thought about, or it challenges you to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit with, having difficult conversations. Like one of the things, they do a class that's, I'm probably going to butcher the name, Getting What You're Worth.
Okay.
And it's about feeling confident in maybe being able to ask for more in commission. And I think, why should I get paid the same thing that somebody who's 1 year in the business got paid, right? I'm bringing over 20 years of value to that transaction in every aspect, right? So I really believe that I'm worth more. And I tell people now up front, and I used to be scared of this because, I know people are price sensitive about stuff, but I feel like I just say, if you're just looking for the cheapest agent out there, I'm probably not a good fit for you. I'm not the cheapest agent.
I can give you some names and numbers. Call these people. They'll take care of you.
Yes. And, I don't think all of them are bad agents either. And some of them have great experience too. But I think you're probably getting a little bit of a different treatment if they're making this much on it versus if they were making this much on it, just from the mere standpoint of this is what we do for a living. This is how we pay our bills. This is how we make a living, right? But I think that was a great class. I mean, that really sort of empowered people to think about things a little bit differently. And I've encouraged agents that have been in the business with me all these years that are scared to maybe ask for more. I always feel like, why are you scared?
Right.
You bring so much to the table. I mean, don't be scared. Do it. You need to do it. So I feel like I'm a big advocate in my office. If anybody's ever sat through a class with me in trying to empower other agents, even in our office, to know that they're worth more.
The more you learn, the more confident you are, the better you, because you understand the subject matter. They say that if you truly want to understand something, try to teach someone what they're doing, which I think is amazing when you think about your transition when you were doing coaching. I think that's, and being a team leader, I think that's valuable and important. You mentioned Atomic Habits. I have it sitting on my shelf. I haven't read it yet.
You haven't?
I got the actual book. I usually read on my phone all the time because it's where I'm at, and I read at weird times.
Yeah.
And
do you need reading glasses? I need reading glasses
I do
to
now,
read
I did
on my phone. That's a tough one for me.
It's getting worse now. Yeah, I did LASIK, and they fix your lens. So I had perfect vision up close, but then once they did that, it kind of threw anything off. But I
thought I had perfect vision, and then I went to get my eyes checked.
Oh.
And he said, well, what do you think of this versus this? And I said, well, that's a little bit better. He goes, so do you have perfect vision? And I was like, I guess I don't.
I put on a friend's glasses once. This was a long time ago. I'm not going to date myself, but I was not even 30. And I was just sitting at a bar, and my friend took his glasses off, and I picked them up and I put them on, and I didn't even understand how bad my vision was until I saw that. I was like, wow. And I didn't get glasses or even try to mess with my vision for another 10 years. I was just like, yeah, it's not that bad. Not that bad yet. So, but obviously, so you are no stranger to reading. Is there anything, any books you feel like you would recommend?
That was a really good one.
Okay.
And I feel like I do reread them, some of the better ones. You know what book I love, which is a very, very easy read, and I'm trying to get my children to read it, is Make Your Bed.
Make Your Bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you read that one?
I have not.
Oh, it's a good one.
Oh, it's about, I'll put it on the list.
I think it's about a Navy SEAL that is required to, it's an adult book. It's not
it is.
Children's book.
I thought it was a children's book.
No,
for
it's
sure.
not. It's an adult book, but I'm trying to get them to read it because I just think it has really good principles. But it's about like starting your day right.
Okay.
Which sort of makes me laugh about the cold plunge and everything, which also, it's fine. I've done it before. It's not my thing. The cold showers. I'm good. I'm good with my warm shower in the morning. But yeah, I mean, the 18 activities before 5 a.m. is definitely not who I am as a human. And if you're a mom that gets up with young children, or really any children in the morning, I feel like any of those habits are going to get thrown out the window anyway, because it's very rare for me to be up before any of my children are up.
It's a different world. There's a popular meme and reel going around, and it talks about like if you're trying to coach me on how to do this and this and this, but you didn't have to deal with, and it goes down the laundry list of things that kids bring to our lives.
Yes.
Mine are 6 and 8 right now, so I'm in the thick of it.
Yeah, you're in the thick.
It's and I love it. It's like, if you didn't go through this, then just stop talking.
Correct.
Because it's that relatability, and you know, obviously you've done an amazing job building a phenomenal career, 22 years in the business, and an iconic figure in the Chicago real estate, you know, scene, which is great. And we could talk all day.
Well, we could.
And we will. Yeah, we have. And you know what? This won't be the only time we have you here. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for coming out today and doing this.
Yeah,
it's really
thanks
great.
for having me.
I think that you brought a tremendous amount of value for people listening. I know this is one that someone's going to listen to and walk away and say like, wow, that was actually, I learned something from this. I feel better for listening to it. And you know, I know it's easy to find people, but if someone wanted to find you, get in contact, ask you questions, what's the best way to get in touch?
I mean, you can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, and I am really good about getting back to people if they DM me on there. But they can email me or call me too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to having you back again, and thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.